Me, I discovered the one thing. Last year, I discovered the one thing that allowed me, for the first time in my life, to keep a New Year's resolution. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch. The title of today's video is It's Time to Make Our 2024 New Year's Resolutions. We all make New Year's resolutions. It's just something that we do. I have made them all my life. So have you. Most of our resolutions, of course, and the only reason that we make these things is to try to fix something. In that respect, we just want to do better. We just want to do better. We resolve to try to fix the problems that we have. And when we resolve these things, we really mean it. I mean, we mean it. We make up our minds. We promise ourselves that we are going to, right after the first of the year, there's that arbitrary starting point again. Starting point for things that we simply, if we were honest with ourselves, would have to say, would rather not do. But we make all our resolutions. We're going to argue with our spouses less. We're going to eat healthier. Although sometimes defining what that actually means as far as eating, quote, healthy, that takes a lot of education on its own. But we make these resolutions and we get ready for it. If we're going to exercise more, we bought ourselves a gym membership. We're going to buy that exercise machine for the house. We're going to make a schedule where we're going to do all this good stuff, and we promise. And we promise ourselves. And every year we say, it's a brand new year, and we admit to ourselves that we've never stuck to one of these friggin' things in our life. At most, these new resolutions lasted a few days, maybe a week. But all the reasons why we got into the problems that we have and came up with all of these things we want to change, ironically, they haven't gone away and they haven't changed at all. They just haven't. And we fail on our New Year's resolutions every year, and we just feel bad and feel ashamed of ourselves whenever we consciously, that's the key, whenever we consciously try to override in our conscious mind, and I talk about this all the time, and yet people just continue to fail to accept the validity of this, even though not only can I prove it to you, but you can prove it to yourself by just looking back at your own behavior. We cannot control our subconscious mind consciously if our subconscious mind is controlled by things that it thinks it needs to do for our survival. And that's the key. Our subconscious mind, our animal brain, call it what you want, has been programmed over all of those millions of years of development with survival as its top priority. The conscious mind, this little area where we live and have our awareness of our own existence is an extremely recent development. In fact, it's only when our subconscious mind shuts off our logical and conscious thinking so we're out of the way and it can get done what it needs to, that we had any chance of survival. And we may think we're modern, we may think we are fully evolved. We're not. We're not. The programming, the learning, the instincts that have got us this far are still pretty much the same as they were 50,000, 100,000 years ago, with small adaptive changes. But the basic survival programming, that is pretty much like the caveman. So we're probably more like cavemen living in a modern society than any more advanced than we think we might be. And that, in my opinion, is the root of why we're so easily addicted. And this is the really important point. Why we're more easily addicted to substances that simply weren't around or weren't around in any significant quantities at the time when these behaviors of using or eating these substances gave us a survival benefit. Our subconscious minds only know that that substance gives a benefit, an edge in the race to survive. Excuse me while I beat my eggs. Many of the things we're addicted to, if you look at it from the perspective of a caveman, these substances didn't exist in any quantity. Basically, the only thing we're addicted to today that they actually had when they were cavemen is the sugar. So, what does an addiction do to you? An addiction gives you a dopamine release, neurotransmitters, and some serotonin from an area we call the pleasure center of the brain. And if you wonder how that operates, all you have to do is to look at the way any animal behaves, because all animals still have their animal brain. They just haven't evolved that little conscious layer on top of it. And you notice when you watch animal behavior that if something feels good to them, makes them happy, because they have the ability to be happy. You can tell that. Your dog's tail just wags away. When you scratch behind his ears, he wants more of that. When an animal feels pain or doesn't feel good, that tends to stop them from whatever behavior they're doing that makes them feel bad or brings on the pain. And that is a response to pleasure and pain that has evolved and motivates us to seek out more of those things that cause pleasure, like sex, which is a pretty handy thing when it comes to survival of a species, or anything that generates this dopamine response. And we've learned with our oh so brilliant conscious minds over the years since we were cavemen, and now that we're all such well-educated know-it-alls, we've learned that other substances affect our neurotransmitters the same way that probably the first addiction, and that's sugar, did. So here we are, living in a modern society. We've learned all these different substances give us pleasure, but I don't want to use the word side effects, but the result of all that pleasure is that bad things happen to us. We get fat. We get sick. We hurt ourselves in many, many ways by inducing way too much of these chemicals, of these substances, that because of our ancient ancestors' need to find sugar as a survival food, we have all of these addictions today, and we make all of these New Year's resolutions that we're not going to succumb to them anymore. Unfortunately, nobody told our subconscious mind, because all of this resolving just happens in our conscious mind. Our subconscious mind still doesn't know or understand that this new kid on the block, this awareness, has decided that it's time for it to put away all of those things that kept our ancestors alive through the toughest of times, and therefore became the most important behaviors we have. Understanding this simple concept of what addictions are is why I keep harping on it, and why you don't hear too many other people really deep diving into the whys of addiction. Oh, everybody in our space acknowledges that, yeah, it might be a thing. Society doesn't acknowledge it. Not only is it a thing, it is the thing that I think greater than 90% of the problems of the human race, causing all of the human race's obesity problems, chronic disease problems, comes from these addictions more than any other factor. Some foods taste great to you but aren't addictive. Other foods taste great and are addictive. Addictive foods all have something in common. They have a lot of sugar in them. They have seed oils, and they generally have grains. Okay, the grains are just more sugar in any form. That's all any carbohydrates are. Long chains of glucose molecules, or any of the other simple sugars. Lactose, galactose, they're either a simple sugar or two simple sugars combined, but everything, even fiber is a form of sugar. I've told the story many times of why we're addicted to carbohydrates and why you can't stop eating them once you start. Well, our society is full of drug dealers who have learned how to capitalize on the addictive qualities of a product that they sell. we as a society have worked very hard to try to make laws to protect the poor innocent people from the big bad drug dealers who want to take all their money and get them hooked on things that they have to do for the rest of their life. The biggest problem is the sugar addiction, and somehow our society not only doesn't discourage these drug dealers from selling people an endless supply of this stuff, filling stores full of shelves, store shelves full of all of these things, but have turned these addictions and this drug business into one of the largest industries on the planet Earth. And the reason they were able to do that is because deep down in the subconscious of every living thing is the ages-old programming that causes a pleasurable response when we eat what was at that time scarcely available survival food. We're subject to the different way the body reacted to this survival food. And since it was a benefit when early animals found this survival food, it was beneficial for them to eat every bit of it they could find. So the satiety pathways got turned off when the animals were eating the survival food that normally would satisfy your hunger when you're eating your real food, which was protein and fat. That fact has been capitalized by every evil human being that cares or doesn't care about the health and welfare of anybody and only cares about their money and power, and we've got way too much of that going on these days. So go ahead and make your New Year's resolutions. Come back to see me at the end of January and tell me how many of you actually succeeded. And start thinking about what you're going to start again after the first of next year. Me, I discovered the one thing. Last year, I discovered the one thing that allowed me, for the first time in my life, to keep a New Year's resolution. That one thing was a diet that completely eliminated all carbohydrates, put the addictions to bed, and is the reason why, as the new year approaches, after one full year of never eating a sugar, never eating a plant, this bacon and eggs is still the thing that I want the most right now. And if you put me in a room full of all that other garbage that people eat, and certainly what they're eating this morning, I would choose this. That is a profound change of mind and habit. And you can do this too. And it's easy. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want you to understand why this works. Anybody can tell you, eat meat. That's not enough. You have to understand why if you want to succeed. I truly believe this. So with that, Happy New Year. Resolve with me one thing. I'm going to stay on a carnivore diet for at least 30 days to 60 days. And I'm going to start right after the first of the year. And then, sometime in February, let me know how well you're doing. And let me know that you never realized how easy it might be to stick to this and how much you're enjoying it and the benefits that you're receiving. That's my present to you, my friends. That's my Christmas and New Year's present, is that simple advice, and it is simple. So, take the rest of the day off and eat meat.